Hi, I'm Dr. Terra Defoe, and you're watching On the Floor. Today, we will meet a man who made some bad decisions as a teenager, and the result of his decisions was 10 years behind bars. Now, that same man has turned his life around and become a valued community leader in Detroit. We're talking about Minister Troy Muhammad, a Christian minister who went to prison and came out as a community leader through the Nation of Islam. Minister Troy, describe the chain of events that landed you in the Department of Corrections.
Young man growing up on the west side of Detroit during the 80s, which was a pretty wild time for young people in the city of Detroit. You know, a lot of YBI, Young Boys Incorporated, different organizations were around. But I was raised by my grandparents, so I kind of avoided a lot of that stuff. But I wanted to take my girl to the prom. I wanted to get a limousine, and they weren't having that part. So I went to a cousin of mine who was hustling, and I asked him for some money to get a limousine. He said, "I ain't giving you no money, you can make some money." And he gave me a bag of white stuff. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know what to do with it. I went to the guy down the street, "Fred, I got this bag. What can I do with it?" By 11 o'clock that night, Fred was knocking on my window at my grandparents' house, and he said, "Give me a few of these." And I gave him the rocks, and he brought money back. And it was just that easy to make money, and I got involved in that. Prior to that, I had been shot 9 times between the ages of 15 and 17. You know, so I started carrying a gun. And eventually in that lifestyle with those types of people, I ended up pulling a gun and shooting somebody, you know. So I was sent to prison at 17 years old for assault with intent to commit murder. I was given a sentence of 25 to 50 years.
I know it's difficult, but take us back to the moments when you were incarcerated, the daily activities.
I mean, it wasn't like the movies,
Yes.
you know. So you go in, and I was sent to a place called Michigan Reformatory, which it had young men from the ages of 16 to 22, but everybody in there had over 20 years to do. So they called it gladiator school. You know what I mean? Just a lot of young men with nothing to lose. So I get my GED, which I didn't have. I didn't finish my high school. I got in college immediately. I got an associate's degree in business, all while in prison. It was keeping me busy. You know, for those first few years, you try to fulfill the things that you didn't fulfill while you were free and able to fulfill them. But it was a tough experience.
So now you're being released. What was that experience? Were there any emotions?
I mean, I don't think it was any emotions involved at that time, because while I was there, both of my parents passed away. You know what I mean? So it was bittersweet in that aspect. And I'd been away. At that point, I got a time reduction because I had 25 to 50. But like I said, when I got in there, I started doing the right thing, you know, and sometimes it's too late to do the right thing. But fortunately for me, you know, I got a second chance. I joined the Nation of Islam while in prison, and that teaching made me kind of straighten my life out and try to do the right thing. So when I went back to court for a resentencing, the judge looked at my record and said, "You're the perfect example of reform. And if I could give you less than the minimum, I would." But she ended up giving me the minimum, and I ended up serving 10 years.
So you went in as a teenager, and now you're coming out as an adult. What changed? Did anything change?
Yeah, I felt like the last OG getting out, you know? I mean, it was different in that aspect, but not really, you know, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. You know, it was a friend of mine who, the day before I left, I went over to his house to visit him, and he was laying on the couch eating some chips or something like that. And when I came back 13 years later, he was still on the couch at his mama's house, you know, eating chips. It was like horrible, you know, when I saw how much he had been frozen in time. So, you know, times changed a bit, but it wasn't that much of a change.
As the leader of Mosque #1, which is located here in Detroit, What is the vision for the organization and its surrounding communities?
Well, I mean now, or it's always been the vision to serve the community, to help serve the community. We've been located on Wyoming and Detroit for over 30 years, and we've been blessed recently to get a new mosque, which we're sitting in today, and it's a lot larger. But the vision for this building for the community is to serve as a service center to help everybody in the surrounding community. We have a facility large enough now where different groups can come in and even share what they have. You know, we want it to be a service center. We want to be able to give out food. We want to be able to help our young people and do all that we can to affect the Detroit community in a positive way.
What are some of the misunderstandings that communities have about the Muslim faith?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that comes from a lack of study, a lack of trying to understand. The Holy Quran, which is the book that we study from, talks about Moses, Abraham, Jesus. You know, in fact, in the Holy Quran, Jesus is raised as the Messiah. So oftentimes when people condemn the Holy Quran or condemn the Muslim faith, they're condemning their own faith, because the Muslim faith raises Jesus as well as his mother, you know, as great representatives of God. I think that, you know, a Muslim and a Christian, if you look at the definitions of the word, they mean the same thing. As a Christian is one who follows Jesus, and a Muslim means one who submits to God. You know, and sometimes we affiliate those who do wrong in the name of religion with the religion. But that would be like saying, because the Ku Klux Klan called themselves the Christian Knights, that they're actually Christian. You know, you know, that would be an unfair assessment. So I think that, you know, the best thing that we can do is sit down, talk to one another and discuss and see that all the principles of the religions, even if it's Catholicism, Jehovah's Witness, Christianity, Islam, you know, the principles are the same. And if the people of God can unite on the principles, I think we'll all be more successful against Satan.
So for those who are listening to your message as you speak not only in Detroit, but across the country, what is it that you want them to take back?
Well, I mean, we can't make anybody change. Change has to come from the person. The individual has to decide to change. So the only thing that I want the ability to do is offer people good information that they can use to apply to self and to change self. You know, I was blessed to get information from Minister Farrakhan, and it was my decision to apply it to myself. So when I go across the country, I meet people who may see me on Facebook or see me on a video or something like that, and they're inspired by the transformation. You know, we just did an event in the city of Detroit, and I talked about how in 1995, when the Million Man March took place, I was in a prison cell. But today, I was hosting it, you know, the anniversary of it. So it just talks about, you know, I think the ability to fall down and get back up. And I think a lot of human beings have fallen down and they don't understand that they can get back up. And I want that to be my main message. If I can do it, you can do it. She can do it, he can do it, you know?
What would you say to your younger self?
Nothing. Because you couldn't be who you are without the mistakes that you made, the failures, the ups, the downs. That's what develops us into the people that we are. So I would say nothing. I would love to watch it and observe it, but you know, you can't be who you are without what you've gone through. So no changes would be made and no instruction would be given. I would just be happy to view it and then be able to view where I'm at right now.